in my office all the time. In fact, the natural gas bill that we formulated, I went to Senator Reid. I said, I want you to sponsor this bill. I want us to put this through. Boone Pickens went to Senator Reid. He has a good relationship with them. So we have the Reid, Hatch, Menendez, natural gas bill. This bill will make a real difference in America because natural gas is naturally much cleaner than coal, although we can't do without coal. I want you all to know that. It's much cleaner than coal. It is very abundant. In some areas we're awash in natural gas. This is one of them. And it's silly not to change a lot of our vehicular traffic over to natural gas vehicles. And Boone wants the 8.5 million heavy-duty vehicles to be converted to natural gas vehicles. That means creating a tremendous grid. That's going to cost a lot of money, but it'll be very cheap compared to what we're going to face. It's very cheap compared to sending all this money overseas to some of our enemies. So natural gas is extremely important to me. And as you know, I'm the one who really fought to get the economic incentives and tax credits and so forth so that we could develop hybrid cars, plug-in hybrids, and electric vehicles. And we're moving in the right direction in those areas. Natural gas is a great industrial source of energy as well. But I would suggest to you, speak very properly and honestly and enthusiastically about natural gas development.
Senator Hatch, can you also add on there?
But don't knock coal, because until we can get to the point where we have all this done, we're going to have coal. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was looking at my notes here. Affordable, abundant, dependable, domestic, safe and available would also help.
Well, and that's a good statement, too. I agree with you on that. It is it's a wonderful resource. And when you stop and think about it, we can do it. But there are a lot of other things we can do. We can do it if we can get the permits and the ability to be able to produce on our own lands in our own country. We're capable of being energy self-sufficient if we would just allow our people to do it. And there are a lot of complexities in there, I acknowledge, but we can do it. And I'm not against reasonable environmental restraints, but some of the things they want to place on us, and look, I don't believe they're going to get this so-called cap and trade bill through. Right now, Boone Pickens' bill is in that bill. I guess they thought that's what would pull that dog through. Now, some of you may like that. I don't. I think it's a terrible, terrible thing, and it's going to be costly. It might, and you get very, very little reduction in temperature over a period of 50 to 100 years. It's almost negligible. Why would we put our country in economic distress with that type of a legislation when we can do some things that will help with the environment, not the least of which will be development of natural gas, not only for industrial use, but also for vehicular use, and especially heavy-duty vehicles. So, we have the ability to solve these problems. The question is, will Washington get the hell out of the way and let us get them done? The answer to that is no, they won't, not as long as we have the current people in Congress. I'd like to see it where we change that. But look, even some on our side in this issue can be Neanderthals with regard to, well, is it expensive to put that grid in? Well, of course it is, but a lot less expensive than the $300 to $700 billion we're sending overseas every year. So, I personally believe this meeting's an important meeting. I personally believe that the Intermountain West, and especially the Rocky Mountains, we have a great capacity and ability to help our country. And I'm going to get that Boone Pickens bill through, and I think Harry Reid will help. If cap and trade goes down, or what they call it now, that's the Kerry-Lieberman bill, if that goes down, and I believe it will, then I believe Boone has a commitment from Majority Leader Reid, who's a friend of mine as well, has a commitment to bring it up freestanding. If he does that, we'll pass it so fast your heads will be spinning. It'll be very good for your industry and very good for America. Okay, who's next? Anybody else? Probably tired of hearing me. What's our chance of cap and trade going completely away? as long as you have the current Congress, it's not going to go completely away. We've got to change that. I'd love to have some conservative Democrats who've worked in the oil patch and the gas patch. I'd love to have some. There aren't any, at least in the Senate. There are some in the House, not many. And when you hear of a moderate Democrat, now, you know, there's only one moderate Democrat in the United States, and I'm being pretty harsh here and very, very honest with you. And they all know that I care for them, but there's only one moderate Democrat in the Senate, and that's Ben Nelson. And you saw what he did on the health care bill, that god-awful health care bill. 2,700 pages, 1/6 of the American economy, that's going to basically bankrupt our health care system, that's poorly written. It's a dog if you've ever seen one. And he caved in at the last and became the 60th vote. And we had that beaten up till then. Now, you know, for us to change it, we're going to have to change it and get some people who understand the needs of energy in this society, and don't just talk in these esoteric terms all the time. You know, cap and trade might be a good thing if every country in the world, including China and India, just to mention two, would agree to do it. But even then, I'm not sure it'd be good because they'll never live up to it. We've known that for years, that they won't live up to the things that they agree to. I'm one of the leaders in intellectual property in this country and in the Congress. You can't get them to enforce intellectual property rules and patent law and copyright law. You just can't get them to do it, even though they know it's right, but they won't do it. Now, India will, but India's not going to do cap and trade either. And if they don't do it, why would we do that and hurt our economy when we have alternatives like natural gas and other approaches to resolve some of these problems? The only way you're going to change it is to change Congress itself. And when you hear some of these other so-called, quote, moderate Democrats, yeah, they're moderate when they're not needed by the Democratic leaders. They'll vote with the Republicans on some issues like this when they're not needed. But if they're needed, they are always there. And the only one, and I just show even somebody as good as Ben Nelson as a moderate, he caved in on one of the most important votes in the history of this country that is going to cost us an arm and a leg from here on in. And I'll tell you what they're going to do. Now, shouldn't probably get into health care this much, but you've got to all be concerned about that too. But I'll tell you what they're going to do. That bill isn't going to work. It's going to cost more and more and more. It's a $2.5 trillion add-on to our economy that we really can't take. And I guarantee you, if President Obama is reelected, and he's charismatic, he's an attractive personality, he's an extremely intelligent man, he's articulate, he'll have a chance of getting reelected. But if he is, I can almost guarantee you within 3 or 4 years, they'll throw their hands in the air and say, it's not working, we've got to go to a single-payer system. And what's a single-payer system? Socialized medicine, that's what it is. Oh, if you don't believe that, just look at the recess appointment of Dr. Donald Berwick this week. This isn't just some itty-bitty job back there in Washington. This is CMS. CMS handles almost all the health care problems in this country. Now, Berwick's a noted pediatrician. He's well respected in many areas. But he also believes that the British system is a really good system. Even the British people don't believe that. And yet, the president appointed this man, and that's irritated the chairman, Democrat chairman of the Finance Committee, Max Baucus from Montana, our Rocky Mountain area. It's irritated him. He said, you're just avoiding having these people have to go through the process that the Constitution requires. Now, I'm not against all recess appointments, but my gosh, that one? He should have to sit there and answer questions and meet the needs of and the questions that the people have. Well, that's just another illustration of where we're going. So that's the only way you're going to be able to change this, is to change members of Congress. I won't say it any further than that, but we're sitting in Colorado. Many of you are Colorado citizens. Fact of the matter is, watch the votes of these guys.
Senator
Okay.
Hatch, can you hear me? Is this on?
Yes.
Yep. Welcome. The ability to hedge is critical for our industry. Can you say a few words, as you'll be ranking member of the Financial Committee, what's happening with financial reform in D.C.?
Well, the ability to hedge and even use derivatives is very important, not only to you, but to the agricultural industry as well. Now look, I've been telling you how bad the health care bill is, and I've only slightly scratched the surface. That's a 2,700-page bill that's going to affect every single person in America. It's going to cost us an arm and a leg. It's going to be awful. They now have a 2,000-page bill that's called Wall Street Reform, and it's even worse, in my opinion. And the start of all these problems happened to be Fannie and Freddie, and they're not doing a doggone thing there. You know why? Because it's going to cost upwards of $1 trillion to correct that. Probably $500 billion right now, but if by not correcting it, it'll be $1 trillion within a year or so. And they don't know how to pay for it. Well, if we don't correct Fannie and Freddie, how are we going to have a real successful reform bill? But not only that, there are all kinds of other things in that bill that just don't work. They're going to turn over whether a company is really capable of running or has a systemic risk to a bunch of bureaucrats. We have a perfect system to take care of that, and that's the bankruptcy courts, where things are transparent. You know what happens. You can tell. You can go to court. You can actually make your case. I remember when all of this occurred, I suggested that we have an expedited bankruptcy for our automobile companies. Oh, they weren't going to do that. The Democrats weren't going to do that. Guess what they ultimately did, only after it cost us an arm and a leg? They ultimately went that route, in the case of both Chrysler and GM. You know, I actually believe, I'm not enlightening, I'm not lifting you any here today, I know. But it's that bad. That bill, and I'm not sure to this day exactly how they're going to handle the hedging and the derivative areas. All I know is that the suggestions that they've made so far are suggestions that I don't think will work very well. And your industry could be very much impacted by whatever goes there. It's going to make the cost of industry even higher. Okay? Anybody else?
Hello?
Sure.
Hi, I'm with Argus Media.
Okay. Oh,
I just wanted to know, you've been talking about not mixing energy policy with climate policy and other areas, but as a foreigner, is there any kind of trade-off between what's good for domestic natural gas and what's bad for the defense industry or other companies that are US companies but would be making money abroad? Or are there just enough problems around the world where the defense industry can make enough money? Because I don't really see any connection between the energy industry talking and the defense industry. And just as a foreigner, people would say that maybe one would make money but then the other would lose money. And also, I have to say that I just got my permanent residence here, so I'm very happy to be in the States, and you would not be able to pay me enough money to go back and live in Europe. So thank you.
Okay,
and I'm very pro the States.